Okay. It says it's recording. We'll see if it is. All right. So thank you, everyone, panelists and students who joined us tonight. I'm going to talk about the scholarships that Illinois section offers every year. I don't know how many years they've been doing it, but as long as I've been involved, so at least 12 years now, probably. This is the second of 4 sessions. 4 weeks in a row. It's a little different format with the virtual, but we're trying it out. So see how it goes. So, all right, that's just laying out exactly what I just said. That is the board from a couple years ago, that picture. So an interesting fact I always like to say at these presentations that ASCE is actually the nation's oldest engineering society. It was founded, was that 170 years ago in 1852. There's just kind of the way everything breaks out. There's regions across North America, and then within region, there's different sections. Sometimes there's branches too. So Illinois section, you know, I'll talk about the next slide is what we're a part of, and as student groups within the boundaries of Illinois section. You guys are all part of Illinois section as well. And a lot of people don't know, it's almost a misnomer to say American Society of Civil Engineers, because ASCE is actually an international organization. There's members in 177 different countries. I haven't updated this in a couple of years. It could be more than that. And there are regions and sections broken up that are outside North America as well. So as you can see, Illinois section is not the oldest section, but it's definitely one of the oldest. I think the Boston section might be the oldest one. It was founded in 1916. You can kind of see it's all of the Chicago area and Collier counties outside of Wisconsin and Indiana, neighboring counties, and a good part of north central Illinois. And in getting to be a part of the Illinois section board, I've got to attend regional national conferences before, and I think we're really lucky to be practicing engineers in the Illinois section. It's one of the most active sections in the country. Over 3,000 members. That's including student members like some of you guys. And something else you'll find is we're very lucky to have such active technical institutes, and especially to have 5 that we do have in Illinois, in the Illinois section. You know, you'd be surprised, even places, you know, really populated areas like the Orange County in California, or even like the New York sections, they don't have as many very active technical groups as we do. You'll see that in smaller areas, smaller sections, everything is just kind of run through the section. But here it's the Illinois section is just the umbrella, and these technical groups are really doing all sorts of great events that you guys can participate in as students, even, and when you become professionals, you participate in those too. So just, you know, just to kind of give you a preview, one of the requirements for applying for an Illinois section ASCE scholarship, you do have to be an official member. Student membership is free, and you'll be provided a membership number that you need to put in the application. But, you know, just for thinking down the road in the future, when you guys transition to your professional careers, one of the biggest challenges ASCE has is there's a big drop off between, you know, people that are student members, and then they start getting their professional career, and then they don't renew. And the biggest obvious reason is at that point it costs money, right? And even if your company, if you're working for a consultant or a state agency, they may you know, be willing to support and pay for all or part of that membership fee. Still, you know, it's work. You know, you just started your new job, maybe you moved into a new apartment or something, and, you know, it just kind of falls by the wayside a lot of it. So just to kind of keep in mind as you guys transition into your careers, as you're going in your future to get your PE or SE, there's a lot of professional development resources that are available to ASCE members online. I think it's 15 free PDHs you can get, and that's not even any involvement with the society at the section level. That's just stuff you can get online. And also too, I probably should check to make sure this is still going on, but there is a kind of a thing that the national, or as they call society level, they were offering that they would prorate your membership fee to be a professional member for 5 years. So instead of paying the, you know, $250, $275 plus whatever your local dues are that first year, it would be 1/5 of that, and then they prorate it for the first 5 years to kind of defray that, you know, big cost hurdle to try to encourage more membership. So again, it's my pleasure and honor to be able to offer to you guys over $17,500 in scholarships from the section. This is a number that's higher than any other year. It always keeps going up. And that's a testament to the dedication of our technical institutes and their leadership and their willingness to participate in helping out students and their interest in dialoguing with students and, you know, taking the time to make sure that their budgets can support these every year and taking the effort to read your applications and everything. And I'll just go through them quickly. There's an AAC student leadership one that's relatively new that the board puts out. That's kind of just general involvement as a student in AAC student groups. Construction Institute has 2 awards. Mike Walsh tonight is from Construction Institute. So if you have any specific construction questions, we're going to defer to Mike. He's gonna take all those. And the Environmental Water Resource Institute has 2 awards. Geo Institute has 2 awards. We have 3 representatives. Well, actually 4 if you count me, because I used to be chair. But the Structural Engineering Institute, for the first time, is now offering 3 scholarships. So that's really great. I think that's a first, and really thank them for their continued support. And the Transportation Development Institute has a sponsored award from an endowment. They have 2 awards every year, and then their Urban Planning Development Institute has an award. I'll go through the scholarship application very quickly because it's a little dry material there, but just to kind of go through the answer in the mail here. The deadline to apply is March 15th. It's mostly the same application as last year. One thing that we'd usually do is we would have you guys attend a spring scholarship dinner. We're not going to do an in-person event this year. We're doing something else. We're still kind of working on what that's going to be. But if you win, I think we're probably going to ask you to kind of do like a little video or something, like an acceptance video, and send it to us, and we're going to edit them together. So people that want to see who won the scholarships this year can see you, and you can have that recognition that you deserve as a scholarship winner. And like I said, you know, studying civil engineering, going to one of the schools that, you know, you guys are all from, UIC, Northwestern, IIT. There's a couple other things in fine print there. That's basically it. You have an essay, letters of recommendation, resume, kind of an unofficial transcript. If you guys don't have the application, if you just Google Illinois Section ASCE and go to the scholarship section, you can download it. And the way it works is you can apply for as many of the scholarships as you want. Each technical institute or the board, it's a different, what's the word I'm looking for, scholarship committee that evaluates each one. As long as you put a number or a check mark in one of those boxes, that committee will review your application. So this is just a little humor to kind of break the monotony of listening to me talk too much. Given the weather outside, we're all probably very grateful we didn't have to drive somewhere today, but I know many of us may need to be going out shoveling some snow, which I know I'll be doing right after this. So before we transition into the professional panel portion of the night, I'm going to open it up for any students or any panelists if they think I missed something. Does anyone have any questions specific to the scholarships or the scholarship application or anything about that process?
Yes, can you give us update on the eligibility?
Sure. Yeah, let me go back to that section here. So I guess nothing has really changed since previous years. You do have to be an active AAC member, but as a student, you can just go online and sign up for it and get a membership number. So that's, even if you aren't right now, you should be able to do that before you apply. You need to be currently pursuing a degree, undergraduate or graduate students. Some of the scholarships, some of them I believe they're all open to undergrad. They're all open to undergraduates. Some of them are specifically give out a graduate award, some don't. But it's to my knowledge, graduate students can apply to all of them. And there's a stipulation that you need to be a full-time student for the fall 2021 term. That just means like if you're graduating in the spring, you would not be eligible. So as long as you're going to be an active student in, I believe it's, yeah, so if you're going to be an active student next fall, or you're graduating after the summer, you know, like if you're doing a co-op or something, I don't know if those are happening now. The only other thing to mention really, if you're a previous winner, so if you've won any Illinois section award previously, you wouldn't be eligible. So Natasha, I think you won an award last year, right?
Yes.
So you're not eligible this year, but you're welcome to hang out and ask the panelists questions nonetheless.
All right, thank you.
I had a question about eligibility too.
Sure.
Is it specific to these schools, or is it just any school in Illinois that could like?
So yeah, so there is like a stipulation that's kind of been grandfathered in there. So technically, there's a if you go to a school, well, actually though, if you're a family member of somebody that is a current active Illinois section member that lives in the Illinois section, you are able to apply as well. I'll tell you, I think in the last 10 years, maybe 3 people have applied under that rule, and I don't know if any have actually won. So that's something I discussed with the board. It's kept in there, but really, I mean, we don't actively advertise the scholarships to anybody outside of Northwestern, UIC, and IIT. So it's mainly. Does that answer your question, Victor? That was Victor, right? Okay.
Yeah. More specifically, like to UIUC, I guess, since like it's technically like still in Illinois, but I don't know if they're like actually a part.
Okay, so
of ISE.
So technically, under the rules of the scholarship, if you're a resident of Illinois section, like, or if you have a family member that is a permanent resident of the boundaries of Illinois section, there's that allowance as well. But actually, Urbana-Champaign, geographically, that is a different section. I don't know what it's called. I don't know if it's called Central Illinois section or something like that. So, you know, everything else that happens in ASCE Illinois section, it doesn't have anything to do with Urbana-Champaign. So they have their own board and their own technical groups and whatnot. So that's why we don't actively, you know, advertise the scholarships to them.
Sounds good. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, so, and yeah, go ahead if there's a question that comes up later. If there's a question that comes up about scholarships later, feel free to ask about that. This is really informal. I'm going to start by introducing myself. Last time I forgot to do this, I went last. But my name is Tom Janicki, and I'm currently a director of the Illinois Section Board. You know, I've served previously as a SEI chair, past chair. I've been working with the ASC Outreach Committee as well and doing being the scholarship coordinator for the last couple of years. I've worked as a structural bridge engineer for about, where are we at now? 13 years. Currently work at BLA Incorporated out in Itasca, Illinois. And type of work I've done is working on structural bridge projects, transportation projects. So I'll go through just to make it, when we're in a room, we can say, why don't we go around the room? So we can't do that now. So I'm just going to call on the panelists to introduce themselves. So Chris, why don't you go first?
Sure. Yep, my name is Chris Knipp. I've been involved with ASCE now for about 4 years. I'm with the SCI group. So I work with Urcelia and Justin to plan events for SCI. Professionally, I've been in the industry now for 6 years. For the last 3 years, I've been working for Jacobs Engineering. The projects that I've been working on mostly are high-speed rail projects. So we've had the opportunity to work on the California high-speed rail and then also the Nevada high-speed rail, which have been really interesting projects. We've been doing the bridge design for those. Yeah, so that's pretty much it about me.
All right, cool. Urcelia, why don't you go next?
Hi, I'm Rosselli Coletti. I'm currently the chair of SEI, and as Tom mentioned, I've worked with him for quite a few years now on the SEI committee. I work at HNTB as a structural bridge engineer. I worked on projects from high-speed rail. Right now I'm working on an airport job, just a various spectrum of bridge work, inspections, load ratings, original design, peer review. I've been in the industry full-time for 9 years, 9 years now. And I went to the University of Illinois for undergrad. And I think I said I work at H&B, so I think that covers me for now.
All right, Justin, why don't you go next?
Sure. So I'm Justin Mickens. I'm a bridge engineer at Parsons Corporation. I've been in the industry for 5 years now, working on like bridge engineer, like I said, working on bridges the whole time. Lots of highway and railroad bridges around the Chicago area. I just took on a role as student liaison for the SCI Illinois chapter. And it's just been the past couple of months, but I've been going to ASCE and SCI events throughout my whole career. So.
All right, thank you, Justin. And I think last but not least, Mike Walsh.
All right, thanks, Tom. Mike Walsh, I'm with FH Passion. I'm a project executive there. I'm representing the Construction Institute. CI is relatively new to the Illinois section, only a couple years old. Being with a construction company, I never quite fit in, I guess, to any of the other institute boxes. So I was really excited when saw the Construction Institute start. So again, a lot of our events really focus on obviously the construction aspect of the project. I've been a member of ASCE since college. Never, didn't participate, and currently I'm our scholarship coordinator. So I think that's about it for now.
All right. Just in case, is anyone else on this call a professional panelist that I didn't see, or is anyone else, or is it all other? It's all students. All right. I will take that as no. So, so just again, I'm going to remind, this is being recorded for the purposes of students who couldn't make it. If they'd like to kind of hear the questions and answers that you guys had, I'm just going to open it up to go ahead and, because it's not too big of a group, just go ahead and unmute yourself, ask a question. You can choose to share your video, or if not, that's fine too. If you want to use the raise hand function to get my attention, you can, if you do that, I'll call on you, but don't feel the need to do that. Or if you have to run or something and you want to get your question in here for later, feel free to use the chat function as well. So I'm going to do my best to kind of watch all that stuff. So whenever you guys are ready, these panelists are ready for you. And I also have questions that I could ask too that are typical. So. All right. All right. I see a hand raised. That's about. Go ahead.
What advice would you give students like me who are seeking their first internships, and when we're applying, we're getting turned down because we don't have an internship experience?
That's a good question.
I guess in my experience, really utilize your network. It's hard to do that, when you haven't had an internship yet, but talk to your professors. They know people in the professional industry. I know I've been in contact with professors when my company's looking for an internship or an intern for the summer. So there's some options there. Yeah.
Yeah, you're going to get turned down a lot when you're first applying for internships. It's natural. It's not anything that's wrong with you. It's just, you just don't have the experience. And I think we've probably all gone through that. One of the things that I would suggest is maybe look at an industry that's kind of semi-related to something that you're interested in. So, one of my first internships was doing sanitary sewer manhole inspection. It was not a glamorous job, but it at least got me some experience in civil engineering. I was interacting with civil engineers on a daily basis. It wasn't ultimately what I wanted to do, but it got something on the resume that showed that, I was involved in some way. So that'd be my advice.
Yeah, to add on that, I would say don't take it personally. It's not a reflection of you. It's a numbers game, and continuing to come to things like this or attending things like this to get face time with any professionals that, unfortunately, because of technology, I guess the recruiters will kind of sieve out or, sort out the resumes by certain characteristics of what they are. And so if you manage to get some face time, they'll stand out. So it kind of piggybacks on what Justin was saying about networking and continuing to do that.
Not to mention, it's a tough time to try and interview and get an internship right now. So yeah, don't give up though.
Thank you.
For sure. And I think even getting to do some of the interviews in virtual, whether they're virtual or in person, just the experience of getting to interview is definitely going to help if it comes to the point where you don't get the internship when you want. If you're looking for full time, just having that experience is definitely going to serve you later on. Kind of one of my kind of common, frequently asked questions here I'll read from while our students kind of get a chance to think of some other ones is, to the panel, when you guys, or if you guys have had the experience of interfacing with students at a career fair, what kind of advice do you have for maybe how a student can approach going to a career fair and how to speak with the professionals at the booths? And then the second part of that is if you have recently been involved in a virtual career fair, if there's any specific advice more tailored to that situation as well.
I would say for a typical career fair, definitely having an idea of what a company does before you approach, their booth or table. Not to say that the company shouldn't be trying to, persuade you as well, but just having an understanding of who you're talking to, what type of work they do. That just gives, the person at the booth, it shows that you truly are interested. You've done your homework, you know what the company is and what they're all about.
Yeah, don't walk up and say, so what do you guys do?
Yeah.
Don't leave with that one. What's your company all about?
I have a question.
Sure.
So for students who won't necessarily be able to, if any sort of internship opportunities don't go through for this summer, what sorts of things do you think would be best for us to, spend our time on so that we continue developing our skills in a way that's still beneficial and especially in the eyes of employers maybe looked highly upon if it's not an internship?
That's a good question. And you definitely tailor it in terms of skills. Yeah, I know, one of the kind of more obvious options is taking if there's summer online coursework available. As far as things outside of school, I mean, honestly, I would say doing a lot of local networking stuff like this. That's something that's also maybe curbed a little bit. But I think, I don't know who said it early on, trying to network as much as you can. I know that's definitely something as a student can be challenging, and it's not necessarily a hard skill, but it's kind of like a soft skill that you're developing. The more time you spend at things like this, where you can interface with us, we might be the ones going to career fairs. I know if you look at Illinois Section ASCE's calendar, there's more and more events like this. If it's not put on by the outreach committee like this, there's other stuff. I know CI they've been doing some virtual events. I know SEI has done some as well. Do you guys have any other? That was my best.
Yeah, I think, if you don't get an internship, maybe I would say at a minimum, look for some type of summer job to keep yourself busy and build your resume, because it shows that, you didn't just maybe sit around all summer and not do anything. One of the things that you could get involved with if you're looking in the civil industry is like a construction job, especially during the summer, because there's a lot of things that you would learn on a construction site that might relate back to your major, and having those practical skills, it's really good. A lot of times in our industry, we'll interact with contractors, and we have all the education in the world through the engineering industry, but we just don't see things the same way that they do a lot of times. And so if you have that experience where you're actually on the other side and doing some of the construction work, it'll help you out in the long run of things. So that's what I'd recommend.
Yeah, definitely what Chris is saying about at least try to find any kind of job. Don't forget to try and look at maybe fabricators too. They might not be big companies, but similarly, you'll see how some of the stuff works and get a little bit of sales too. And sometimes they go to companies during lunch hours and present to us. Also, as difficult as this pandemic has been, there has been new opportunities presented in terms of how we function in office / primarily out of office. So if you don't get a summer internship, maybe just be like, hey, well, I'm happy to work remotely now that it's kind of proven that it can be done. I know that's something we're going to be looking at, that we keep our current interns on kind of call almost, like if sometimes you get really busy. So it'll always be helpful to have someone that, even if you just mention that, seeing as it's a possibility now.
Thank you.
All right, I have some more questions here. Some good ones for you guys. So, students, please interrupt me. It's for you guys, but I have some more that maybe you guys would be interested in the answers. So, I guess maybe answer one of. Well, I'll start with this one. Why did you become a civil engineer? What was it about civil engineering that drew you to it? You can think back all those years ago.
You asking Tom? Just
anybody. I talk a lot, so yeah, I'll leave it up. Anybody wants to talk?
Well, I guess I can start. I actually went into school as a mechanical engineer my freshman year. I've always been fascinated with construction, but also, everything engineering and everything that comes up on Modern Marvels on the History Channel. But we kind of had a first introductory course to all of the main disciplines that our school offered: electrical, civil, computer, and mechanical. And I hated mechanical engineering. And going to civil engineering would mean, you know, I'd still get involved in cool construction projects. Maybe I could go into structural engineering, and I could not do dynamics. And it ended up working out perfectly. I kind of fell in love with structural engineering and did my master's, and it's worked out well. So
I was gonna ask Justin, was it the dynamics?
That's funny. I have a similar. I started mechanical engineering at Southern Illinois, and I actually got an internship with FH Passion, and kind of quickly changed my mind to decide to do civil. I was an intern while they were redoing the Brown line on the north side of Chicago there, and just really fascinated by the whole construction being in the field. And so it kind of made the switch right then and there.
Yeah, I was always interested in doing something that was kind of tangible that you could actually see. And so business was never really anything that I wanted to get into. And part of it is just kind of my personality, you know, like I'm not like a schmoozer at all. Like I'm not into that. And I'm kind of practical and pragmatic. So, you know, engineering fit my personality, I think. And so I wanted to do something that I could see, and I wanted something that would provide, you know, good job security throughout my career. And engineering is obviously a great industry to be in because we're really in demand, and civil engineering especially because there's always problems with infrastructure. So yeah, it's a great industry.
I will say though, you know, sometimes later on, if you get into the sales, schmoozing is part of being an engineer.
Yeah, I was gonna bring that up.
I like to say that
You don't have to, yeah.
There is kind of a flexibility with our industry, especially civil engineering, that, you know, I think that people don't realize how much. Well, I can share a very brief anecdote. Made my wife run a party at one of her work friends, and you know, we're just randomly talking to somebody. Oh, what do you guys do? Well, and I was like, oh, I'm a structural engineer. She's like, oh, so you don't deal with people at all, do you? I was like, you have no idea what I do you? Like, all I do is deal with people. I'm either dealing with as a project manager, I'm dealing with young engineers, trying to make sure they know what they're doing and they're on task. Or if they have questions, I'm dealing with my boss who's looking at the outlook or staffing for the next month. I'm talking to a contractor that's trying to build something I designed 2 years ago and there's a problem with it. I'm talking to a client who has a question about the plans. You know, there's so much, you know, person to person interaction, communication. And I think especially in civil engineering as opposed to maybe, you know, some facets of mechanical engineering you might go into. So
Yeah, I would, on top of that, I would also say, at least for the three of us, I'm sorry, Michael, I don't know where if this applies, but being in bridges, we work with government agencies a lot more, which you have a lot more clientele, from what I understand, to operate with, as opposed to building engineers who, everything I read about them or hear from them is that they're a little bit more like gears, where they're, you know, just like popping out designs and stuff. So for us in particular, and that's still true in for building engineers, project managers, you have to manage people as well. And it's not just like you in a little graphic desk or computer nowadays, it's doing your own thing, as much as you might want it to be some days.
right. All right. Those are great answers. Are there any other student questions? Because I got more. I could do this all night. This is fun.
Yeah, I have a question kind of relating to the topic being discussed right now. So for students who kind of enjoy both the kind of like contractor work, I guess you could call it, like carpentry and that kind of stuff, but then also structural engineering, is there a particular, you know, industry or field that would allow for the most of that kind of combination?
Do you mean that you would be doing it yourself? basically, when you say carpentry?
Not necessarily doing it myself, but like being more on the job site, because I know a lot of times, at least maybe I'm misinterpreting how a lot of structural engineering is, but my interpretation is that there's a lot of time spent kind of like in the office designing, as opposed to being like on the job and, you know, maybe answering questions, things like that. Perhaps it's just the nature of the job, though. I'm not sure.
I can't speak for, I can only speak to my experience. When you're a younger engineer, especially, there will be opportunities for you to be an RE or an inspection or like an inspector on the job, which I had always tried to sign up for, but never lined up. So that's one example, especially if you sign up for one of the really big jobs. I think, what is it, I-4, Tom? Is it I-4 for Benish that you used to work on? I know one of our engineers for the Iowa job.
I didn't work on that one.
Yeah, but Benish, it's that one, right? Like, for example, I remember I was asked if they opened up the opportunity to do that. It didn't line up for me at that time, but there's the opportunity to be on a job for like 2 years at a time, especially with these major jobs as a structural engineer, making sure what they call specifications are abided by and making sure everything is going the way that it's supposed to be interpreted and things like that. On top of it, as Tom mentioned, you might get RFIs, which are requests for information in case something doesn't go according to plan. They need to change something. You might have to go out there and inspect. So it's not one off that I can't promise that the opportunity will come up, but if that's something you're interested in, that's something you should look for. And a lot of, I know all of our firms have done that, as well as bridge inspections is another thing that a lot of companies will get long contracts for, if that's something that you're interested in just being outside.
Or on the contracting side, whether, you know, it's a general contractor, obviously there's a lot of field positions there. Now, again, you're not doing, you know, structural engineering per se, but, you know, that background and that education, you know, gives you a leg up on what's going on out there. Steel fabricators, steel erector companies, you know, these are all contracting companies where that, again, that engineering knowledge, you know, is kind of mixed with, you know, getting it done in the field.
Mike, you work for FH Passion, right?
Correct. Yep.
Do they have any in-house SEs or PEs that do stamp some like false work, contemporary design, like temporary supports or anything?
No, we usually hire consultants for that. You know, right now I'm working on a design build project actually with Jacobs for the South Shoreline Westlake Corridor extension. So right across the border in Indiana. So again, you know, in design build situations, we partner with engineering companies to kind of get that design portion done. And we're focused on build. And even for false work, form work, that's like we do typically just, you know, hire a smaller firm to do those type of calculations for it. We have plenty of professional engineers on our staff. We're just not around stamping anything.
I think there are contractors that do have more in-house engineers.
Yeah,
than-
that's what I was gonna say. There are
Yeah.
some, yeah.
Yeah, they're trying to
Kiewit.
make, Kiewit's making a push to do a lot of that. I think Flatiron has some as well, and but I think those jobs are out there, but maybe they're not as abundant as like being on the consultant side.
Do you guys know? I just have the impression that they're not also as like complex or technical. If it's usually like sheet pile design or like temporary retaining system, other similar things, form work, as Mike mentioned. Just as a caveat.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
That's just my assumption.
My in the transportation industry, like I've definitely working for transportation consultants, we've been at times the engineer that's hired by the contractor to design, let's say if you're erecting a curved steel girder and you have shoring towers or some kind of, you know, crazy erection procedure, especially in Illinois, you need an SE to sign that, to stamp that. So you're going to work with the contractor and you might even go out site. So to kind of answer your question on that front, you could be maybe working for a design consultant and doing mostly design work, but you could get opportunities to design, you know, contractor, I say temporary because usually it's some intermediate structure to get the final structure built. Because that's what part Celia mentioned too. On the consultant side, aside from, a lot of design transportation consultants will have a design group and they will have a construction management group. So you're not working for the contractor. The state will hire you as a third party inspector of the contractor. So you're doing construction inspection, resident engineer work, not necessarily designing anything, but you're resolving issues that happen out in the field that the design engineer doesn't have to address, and you'll work with the contractor for that. And then a third, option would be you could work directly for a general contractor who, for many of the things that, in Mike's case, FH Passion might not have any in-house, other contractors do. You're actually stamping, designing some of that work so they don't have to hire a consultant. Or as he said, you're still getting your professional engineering license working for a contractor, being involved in some technical aspects. So there's really a lot of different overlap in the two, I think. And that's whether you're in the building, even in the building industry, which I think Mike's probably more familiar with than the four of us. But I know having the designer on site is fairly commonplace as well for certain problems that come about. So I think if that's something you're interested in, it's going to depend on the company or the firm or the contractor that you're interviewing with. And that's a great point of discussion to talk with them about. Because I think if you're looking to get a good balance of field and office, it's really just going to depend on the particular opportunities that they have. So, great question. All right, I have some other kind of going along the line of career type advice here. Earlier, I asked advice for the students at a career fair. I got a couple questions here more geared toward the panel of, from your perspective, if you're evaluating resumes or even if you're going to interview a particular candidate, what are some qualities that you're typically looking for? And these may be like specific things on the resume, that might be more obvious, or maybe some things that are not so obvious about, when you're talking to somebody for the first time. And, what are some things you're looking for when you're thinking about, who do I want to join my team?
There's the usual, you always hear how people have done in school, GPAs, things like that. But beyond that, I've had people, or we've had interns before that something just kind of rubs you the wrong way. They're not really a team player, or you can tell that they think very highly of themselves. And this is all very subjective, I should say. This is how I personally feel about what makes a good engineer. In our field, at least, they have to be willing to be flexible and enthusiastic, and just try to take directions well, but also offer their own input, but not be pushed, not in a pushy way. That if your input is not taken, then you accept that, but don't be arrogant. If that makes sense.
Definitely a willingness to learn. Being open to that instruction, taking constructive feedback, but if it's clear and obvious that you're willing to learn and you like learning, I think that would go a long way.
Willingness to ask questions is very important to me, because I'll assign a task and I won't get any questions, and I'll get it back and it will say it won't be the way I was expecting it to be, which is partially on me. But when you don't ask questions, that leads me to believe that you know what you're doing. And I'd prefer you would be more willing to ask questions and not appear to know it all. Because really, I remember when I started, I was told what you learn in school is only like 10 or 15% of what you actually do. there's so much more out there with regards to codes and like how things are just done generally, what's more economically efficient, what's more efficient in like construction. So it's better to just know, it's better to just ask so you're all on the same page. If you don't know what a term is, just ask. Like sometimes engineers will talk over your head. They don't do it on purpose. It's just that we forget what we don't know or what we didn't know at that time.
Yeah.
So I like to see, someone asking questions in that manner too.
Yeah, the longer you do this, the more you forget all the stuff that you had to learn coming out of school. Like what you said. Like, yeah, one of the reasons I got into civil engineering is I thought, I didn't want to get an English degree and then just figure out what to do with it. I wanted to get a degree to do something and then go do that thing, But it's really, there's a lot. It is just the tip of the iceberg that you guys are learning in school. And I kind of heard a couple things that are like, they're kind of like opposite extremes. Like, we really want you to work independently and ask a lot of questions, right? Like, those are two different things, right? Finding that balance is tough because I've definitely had the experience of people. Personally, I would rather you're talking my ear off all day, bothering me, calling me, emailing me with questions, because I know exactly what you're doing. I know exactly where you're at and what I need to show you.
And that you're thinking about it. I've had interns like catch things that are like, what should I do about this? And then they'll explain their thought process. And to me, that's really important because like you're thinking about it. You're pointing something out to me that I didn't have time to think about or just didn't think about at the time because I wasn't familiar with the task.
And then there's some stuff like if you're asking me, if I said, oh, you should look at this design guide or this code section, and you're asking me stuff that's in it, I'm like, well, it's in there. So there's like a balance of like a self-starter independent, but really that's the thing. I'll put it pretty frank. Our job is not easy. It's not very straightforward. It requires a lot of juggling, a lot of different inputs and constraints from different places. Like, is this a efficient design so it saves a lot of money? Is it easy to build? Is it what my boss is used to designing? Is it like what the client likes to see? Like, there's so many things,
and then you have to prioritize all of those things, and that varies. There's no formula for it.
Right. It's not plug and chug, with equations. It's the homework is like that usually, but it's not as straightforward in the professional world, I'd say.
When I started, I would always ask my supervisor, I was like, well, how did you know that? Or like, and like maybe 85% of the time was like just judgment, experience. And I was like, oh God. So, but by asking, and you'll remember it for next time. And now you have that experience.
Yes.
Yeah.
It comes with time. So don't be too intimidated by that kind of thing. So.
Yeah, and I totally agree with Tom. I'd rather someone just ask me questions all day. I know, again, that's subjective. I know some engineers will be like, this person's asking me questions all day, but just take your chances, ask questions instead. It'll result in a better product for everybody.
Yeah, I mean, even today, I still ask questions to senior engineers. You're never going to stop learning in this industry, so you might as well start at the beginning and really get all those questions out right away and learn as much as possible, because like Rosselli said, there's only so much you can learn in school, and there's only a certain percentage that's going to be coming up on a daily basis. You have to learn a lot within the industry, and so be courageous, ask the questions. Even if it's a dumb question, just ask it, because like we've all asked dumb questions before. And so it just be curious and build your knowledge as much as possible.
Yeah, good advice. All right. All those students out there, are these discussions kind of, I know at least one of you is holding back. You have a question. It's in your mind. And you're like, should I ask it or shouldn't I? Just go ahead and ask it. 7, what's up?
So on the topic of questions, what are some good questions you've heard during career fairs, students asking you, like to learn more about the company or learn about you?
Man, that's a head scratcher. That's a good one though.
I've never worked a career fair on this side, so I'm trying to think of one, but I don't have anything off the top of my head.
Yeah, it's been quite a while since I've gone as well. It's been like 5 years, so.
I think the best questions I've had were when they've done some research, they might ask me a specific question about a project that was done. Like, hey, I saw that, your firm did this project, did you work on it or and it's funny, is a lot of times maybe you didn't, but they could say, oh, did you work on it or did you know of any challenges with it? Even if they have no idea, it's still a good question because you're kind of dropping it a little bit that you looked them up, and it's like, oh, okay, so this person was definitely interested. Trying to think of another one. I think the question that somebody brought up earlier, asking about, do you guys do, or do you think I would have the opportunity to be out in the field mostly, or would it mostly be an office job? Those are all common questions, but they can kind of jog the memory of the person who's at the career fair to kind of, you might get some other interesting things that build off of that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So I actually got a question in the chat from Edgar here. So Edgar asks, would you recommend getting a graduate degree right after an undergraduate degree, or is it better to wait and obtain more industry experience first?
I don't have my graduate degree, so I will say that you should probably get it right away if you can. I started online, and it was very difficult to not get back into it. So part of the reason was because I was doing it online, but it's better to be in person and have that teamwork than people to rely on your group. Doing some of the master stuff is very theoretical and difficult to do when you're alone. On top of it, your workload changes a lot, and the silver lining is your company might pay for it if you are able to work full time, mind you, and go to school. So it's a trade-off of if you really need to go to school. We have an engineer right now that is working on school, or a couple engineers right now that are doing that, and it also stretches out how long you're at school versus just getting it out of the way. So if you can do it, go ahead and do it immediately. But it does give you perspective when you go back to school on how it helps you understand the work you're doing at your company. I still would personally say just get it done immediately if you can.
I know. Justin, you said you had a master's as well, right?
Yeah, I did my master's right after my bachelor's. And it was more expensive probably because I didn't have a company that was willing to pay for part of it, but I dedicated, all of my time to just that graduate degree. So I think it was worth it. So.
Yeah, to Justin's point, when you do it and you're not working, you can focus entirely on your studies, and that helps out a lot. Showing up to the industry with that graduate degree kind of gives you maybe some extra tools that you wouldn't have had with just the bachelor's degree, and so you can work on maybe a wider variety of projects or things. And so I got my graduate degree right after my undergraduate, so I did it back to back like that. But there is a huge financial hit that you take because you have to take out student loans and pay for it yourself. But it's kind of an investment, really. You invest that money and you hope to get it back when you enter the industry. So.
I agree. I also got my master's right after my bachelor's. And, everyone's situation is different. A lot of times people want to start working right away so they can start paying down their student loans from their bachelor's. But if it's an option for you, I recommend it, getting a master's right away. And on the other side, I do know people that got their masters, like Rosselli too, while they were working. And I'm even thinking back, like, if I knew everything I knew now before I got my master's degree, I feel like the classes would have been more beneficial in a lot of ways. Cause like, I just think back like how much I didn't know, even just having a bachelor's degree and starting my master's, getting to the point of get out in the industry, you realize how much you don't know. But yeah, I hope that, I think we did a good job answering that question. So hopefully. All right, thank you, Edgar, for the question. So we're getting pretty close to 7 here. I think that's about time to do a little resume review if you guys have them. But before we go to that portion of the evening, I want to make sure if you guys had any other questions, just go ahead and shoot them out in the chat, or just feel free to unmute yourself and blurt them out. Just probably do maybe 2 quick ones or one more good question before we do the resume review.
I have a quick question. Do you have like any advice for the FE or the PE exam?
Study a lot. Make a schedule for your studies. Really make sure you put the hours into those studies, because it'll pay off.
I would say for the FE, at least what I remember, this is a long time ago now, it was like straight out of that manual. And I know you can't bring your own manual, but like if you become very familiar with that, because the FE is such a broad range of topics, it's insane. If you can at least familiarize where some of that stuff is, like I had equations that came directly out of there, and it was literally plug and chug. I still remember that because it was stuff I didn't even remember learning in school. Like yes. I remember there was a capacitor equation, and I was like, I took E&M, but I don't remember, and I found it in the book, and it's literally in there. So, and like Justin said, problem solving probably, because again, it's such a broad range of topics still. Get the civil engineering reference manual. That one's pretty important for the PE.
Yeah.
And just useful in general.
Yeah, for those tests, if there's a topic that you are not really good at, like for me, it was chemistry. I just was terrible at chemistry. I didn't study for chemistry for the FE or the PE. I just, said, I'm not going to focus on this. I'm going to focus on what I know and get better at those topics. So, that can cut down on some studying, because there's all the studying in the world, I still wouldn't be good at chemistry. So, just cut your losses if there's a really bad topic that you don't know very well.
Chris, I love that self-awareness. It's a powerful strength to have.
I mean, it's my worst class in college, so it's like, I know I'm not going to learn this. So,
and I think for the PE, getting some, experience before. I know you can take the PE early now, but I took it maybe 2 years early compared to the 4. And I think those couple of years of experience really help, I think, for the exam.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that too. Taking the SE too, if you go to structural engineering, having some design years under your belt before you take the SE and the PE as well. It's definitely good.
With the SE, you don't really have a choice, right?
Well, I didn't take the SE as soon as I could. I kind of waited, put it off for a while. So, but the other thing too, before I forget, because this came up in the first session, in particular, going back to the FE, a lot of students ask, should I take the FE before, when should I take the FE? I really recommend to do it before you finish school. A lot of students elect not to do that. I think it might be IIT. I think one of the schools makes it part of the curriculum where they strongly encourage or make you do it. Definitely do. I mean, I think like right at in your senior year, your last year of your undergrad is probably the perfect time to take the FE if you could fit it in. I don't know what the scheduling is like with it. I know you're taking other classes. Definitely get it out of the way.
All the time now because it's on the computer.
Yeah.
Pick a good time, study. Like I said, it's a lot of filling out equations, even if it's not as, they're not really, I don't really remember them trying to trick you like they do on the BE and the SE sometimes. So get it out of the way because, whether it's electrical capacitors or chemistry, or for me, I remember getting a thermodynamics question. I was like, I have no idea how to do this except that I'm taking it right now. If a month later, I wouldn't have remembered how to do it, So, or just the fact that I was taking it close to that, I could just look it up in the book they give you quick. So tell all your friends, all you guys, take the FE before you graduate if you can. It just get that out of the way. And the other thing is too, for your PE, you don't actually, your experience doesn't count. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but I don't think your experience counts until you get the EIT officially, right? So like if you put it off after graduation, you're missing out on that time counting toward the PE.
Oh man, I don't even remember.
Yeah, I don't know about
I think
that.
that's how it is.
Yeah, I think that's right because you have to be an engineering intern to start getting experience. I think.
Yeah, that makes sense. I just don't remember.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Let's see how many. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we have 7 students, and there's 5 of us. So this is new territory because the last one, they're only a couple of the students actually had resumes, so they just emailed it to us. But I wanted to try out the breakout rooms here, and actually, I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording as well.